Hi, everybody. Good evening. Welcome to the Finding You podcast. I'm Dr. Brad Reedy. Today is Wednesday, October 8th, 2025. Tonight, I'm going to be talking about acceptance and responsibility. I'll explain more what that is once I get into it, but let me cover the housekeeping for this evening. If you're not aware, we have launched our Finding You Inner Circle. That is a subscription-based podcast subscription. So if you want to listen to these live, if you want to interact with me live, especially during the Ask Me Anything, if you want to have access to episodes that aren't available to the general public, subscribe to our Finding You Inner Circle. You can do that by going to our website or by emailing us at info@findingyouprograms.com. If you're interested in a deep dive in your own work, Finding You's flagship program called Finding You, the Finding You Intensive, the next available one is November 5th through 9th, December through 3rd after that, December 3rd through 7th after that. We are also hosting a couples intensive. That is just for couples. It is like Finding You, but if you want to do your work together, this is a once or twice a year opportunity. If you want to do your own work, but you want to do it with your partner, you want to stay in tandem with them, the Finding You, Finding Connection workshop is that offering, and that is going to happen later on this year. So contact us at info@findingyouprograms.com. Go to our website for scheduling. For all other inquiries, for private intensives, for couples and family, again, you can use that email. We have launched our support groups for the alumni of our Finding You program. The next available one is October 15th. So if you want to learn more, you want the link for that, email us at that email. And of course, if you want a coach or a therapist who works from the model, the attachment-based model that I teach, that is the basis of this podcast, then contact us through our website or at that email. Steve Kirk, our program director, and my partner can sign you up with a therapist or coach that's a good match for you. That's info@findingyouprograms.com. This is the last time I'll be announcing because I'm going to be there next week. I'm going to be at the Omega Institute in Rhinebeck, New York, the Hudson Valley. And I'm really excited about this. I'm going to be co-hosting the Audacity to Be You workshop. So this is a 5-day long workshop. It's really affordable. It's around $500 depending upon where you stay in your membership. You can go to their website at eomega.org. That's eomega.org. Click on the workshops tab and then the Audacity to Be You. So that's right around the corner. I'll be leaving this weekend and I'll be out in New York for that next week. I won't be hosting one of these podcasts because of that. Beyond that, if you're from the Bay Area and you want to do a workshop with me, I'm doing a half-day workshop that I'm calling Bringing Compassion to Parenting, a parent coaching workshop with me, Dr. Brad Reedy. That'll be at the Palo Alto Preparatory School. So if you're interested in that, sign up soon. That's from 11:30 to 3:30 on October 25th, the week after the New York experience. So go to our website to find out more and to sign up there. And of course, my two books, The Journey of the Heroic Parent and The Audacity to Be You, are available on Amazon and Audible. If you're interested in reading those, just go there. And again, I did the audio for The Audacity to Be Used, which I was really excited to do. With all of that housekeeping, now let's get into tonight's broadcast. I want to be clear that this podcast, not just this podcast tonight, but specifically this podcast tonight, is not psychotherapy. If it were, I would be mostly listening. The idea in psychotherapy, the way that I practice psychotherapy, is first we build a sense of safety, both in the moment, but also over the long term. And then you are able to do the things that you need to do to make your life go forward, to support your journey going forward. So tonight, I'm going to say things that are going to be more blunt than I might say in therapy. It might feel like, in fact, I got this idea from reading a book where the author was stating very clearly the responsibility that we have on our journey in psychotherapy. This is not something your therapist can do to you. This is something you decide whether or not you're going to do. It is facing and accepting what is in front of you, the circumstances, the life, the disaster that you're facing, the crisis that you're facing, the struggling child, the struggling marriage. You have to face that. And I think for many of us, we think that therapy is going to give us some workaround so that we don't have to deal with that, or that it will magically go away, that there's a solution that will be a win-win for everybody. I always talk about therapy as a way of helping people and supporting them with their unsolvable problems, because in a way, that's what I'm describing, is that there's no simple answer to what you bring to therapy, but it is a transformation. And the thing that you get out of therapy is not a template for how to approach or where to go on your journey, but what you get out of it is something different about you. So normally, if I was in therapy, it's very slow moving. Like I said, it's a lot of listening, it's a lot of empathy. As I talk about in other podcasts, safety becomes the therapy, the treatment, and also the result of treatment at the same time. The therapist becomes the parent that you never had, and the therapy becomes the childhood that you never had. So tonight, I'm going to be saying things, like I said, really directly. And that might feel a little cold. So if you're not in a soft space right now, if you're not feeling safe, this might be one to put off. But I wanted to give that preamble before I got into it. So I'll continue reading from what I wrote. This podcast is not therapy. Therapy, the kind that I practiced, is based in attunement, compassion, and empathy. Therapy, as I see it and practice it, is creating safety both in the moment and over time. Essentially, that safety, that base, that attachment repair, you can think of it as becoming permanent with repeated exposure to a safe container, to a safe person, to a safe experience. So that eventually, when the individual feels safe, they're able to meet themselves in ways that they never could before. So that's the preamble to this. Where I got this idea was from one of James Hollis's book. I was reading his book, one of his books, several years ago. And for those of you that are regular listeners, you know that James Hollis is one of my favorite writers in the analytic field. And Hollis was telling people very blunt things in his recalling of therapy sessions. There was a woman who'd been married to her sweetheart, her soulmate for 20, 30 years, 40 years, something like that. And she came in wondering, how am I going to face this? How am I going to deal with this task and that task? And the way that James Hollis says it is, he says, well, frankly, you'll deal with it by dealing with it. That in a way, your soulmate had been doing things for you that ultimately you had been avoiding, at least not developing the skill, the resilience, the strength in this area. And so you're going to have to face things on your own. And I remember when I was reading, I remember exactly where I was when I was reading that a few years ago. I was thinking that wouldn't fly in psychotherapy. If I said that to clients, that would sound cold and uncaring and insensitive. And then I remembered I wasn't in psychotherapy. I was listening to a book. And in that context, in that vein, that's what I want to share with you tonight. James Hollis says, each morning, the twin gremlins of fear and lethargy sit at the foot of our bed and smirk. Fear of further departure, fear of the unknown, fear of the challenge of the largeness that intimidates us back into our convenient rituals, conventional thinking, and familiar surroundings. To be recurrently intimidated by the task of life is a form of spiritual annihilation. On the other front, lethargy seduces us with sibilant whispers. Kick back, chill out, numb out, take it easy for a while, sometimes for a long while, sometimes a lifetime, sometimes a spiritual oblivion. So again, this is about the task that we are inevitably able to face when we feel safe enough. I have so many clients that I've worked with over the years who talk about directives and ideas, suggestions from their psychotherapists who sound like wonderful people. And what I say to those people often, because they're struggling to meet those invitations, to meet those suggestions, is that eventually through the process that we go through, you'll feel safe enough to do it. So when I teach behaviors, really what I'm saying is, if you did feel safe, if you had a secure attachment, if you were operating from a place of safety and love, this is what it would look like, or what it might look like, one of the ways that it might look in your life. On the contrary, if you were operating from fear, and as I talk about and teach often, those are the two most fundamental fuels that drive our behavior, fear and love. If you're operating from fear, it doesn't really matter what you do, because the change is aimed at trying to control or avoid something. But if you're operating from love, from acceptance, from safety, then what you do makes sense, because you are the behavior, the choices are coming out of that love and that safety. So again, back to the idea that the principal goal in attachment-based therapy and analytical-based therapy, the kind of therapy that I practice, is to create a base inside of you. so that the seeds, the tools, the insights, the awarenesses, the suggestions, the exercises, the rituals, those things take root. And because the soil has been prepared, I should say, those tools, skills, ideas, insights are able to take root, and what grows out of that is something very beautiful and very large. The persistent, insoluble problem that you are facing is asking you to face parts of yourself that you have most likely avoided up to this point. The parts of you that you have been told to hate and to fear. You have to become something you have been taught to loathe. This is the dragon battle when we talk about Joseph Campbell's hero's journey. This is the dragon battle. People always ask me, what's the dragon battle? When is my dragon battle? What does it look like? It is that time when you confront the sensibilities, the teaching of the dominant culture of your own childhood and say, no more. And the dragon is a fearsome creature that intimidates, that guards, that hoards a treasure. So we have to steal from it. We have to find a way through it. We have to confront it. We have to deal with it. We have to let go. We have to become, in many ways, those things that we were told to hate, to loathe, like I said. What stands in the way of your freedom, of the treasure that you seek? It's the shoulds and the shouldn'ts. That's what Campbell and Nietzsche said, right? The shoulds and the shouldn'ts are the thing that prevent you from being who you really are. You are trapped in this dungeon, if you will, of ideas that aren't real, rules that aren't real, rules that are somebody else's, a version of life that is not your own. So to escape that dungeon, that prison that you find yourself in, you have to go through the dragon. You have to let go of trying to please. You have to let go of being good, being right, winning. You have to be willing to lose. You have to be willing to be selfish. You have to be willing to be bad. You have to be willing to let people down. You have to be willing to drop the ball, to fail, to come up short, right? Those are the things that you have to embrace. Now, in my book title, The Audacity to Be You, the subtitle is Learning to Love Your Horrible, Rotten Self. And that's essentially what I'm saying. Because those parts that we were taught to fear and to loathe, those ideas were wrong. Those ideas came out of fear. And sometimes, in some ways, those are just legacy ideas that came from previous generations. Maybe it's something that our parents had to deal with. But it comes from a place of trying to protect us and them from pain, from discomfort, from the fear of being rejected, being alone, being hated. So you have to face the parts that you've been told to hate and fear, the part that you were taught, the parts of you that you were taught to loathe. The horrible, rotten self that I talk about isn't really horrible and rotten. I should put that in quotes to make it clear on the cover of the book. It's just the parts that you've been told are horrible and rotten. Like I said, this is the dragon battle in the hero's journey. This is the cave that you fear to enter. This is the confrontation with the shoulds and the shouldn'ts that have been baked into you. When you face them and go through them, you will gain access to the treasure that the dragon was guarding. And the essence of that treasure is you. That's what you're seeking this whole time. You don't know it because it was hidden from you. You were told to fear who you are. You were told that you were born in sin, that the natural you is an enemy to God, that you were that the parts of you that would cause people to scream and run and shudder. Right? And in the Barbie movie, I love the scene where from the first time when Barbie's foot becomes a human foot, a real foot. In other words, who she really is. And she shows it to her friend. One of her friends vomits. And that's kind of what it's like when you become yourself, is that the people, even the people in your close circle, maybe even mostly the people in your close circle, will tell you that what you're doing is crazy. You've lost your mind, that they don't know you anymore, that you're having a crisis and that you need help, you need medication, you need therapy, right? They send all those messages to get back in line. Do what you're supposed to. Do the right way. Do what everybody else is doing. You'll gain access to you, You are the treasure that you are seeking. So in psychotherapy, I was talking to somebody recently, and I've had this experience. I'm a beginning guitar player. I took it up during the pandemic, like many people did, and grateful that I did. I love learning. And as I've gotten a little bit better, I'll show it to friends or other people that play guitar. And whenever I show what I've learned to a really good guitar player, they always have the same response. They smile and tell me I'm doing great, but they always say, keep going. And that's what I would say. Keep going. Keep going. But you don't have to go alone. Carl Jung said, and this might be the basis of this broadcast. Carl Jung said, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, in order to avoid facing their own soul. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. So the darkness, the shadow, the parts of us that we were told were bad, that we repressed, that we think we got rid of, right? The feelings, the ideas, the wants that we were told would ruin our lives, that we repressed that, we sublimated that. And in its darkness, in its shadow, it becomes a monster. It becomes something that wreaks havoc in our life, and in many ways runs the show. So we have to go into the places that we have been told to fear. And to do that, the way that I did that is I sat with somebody, still do actually, over and over again, and had the courage, little bit by little bit, of sharing parts of myself that I was sure at every step would cause my therapist to retreat in horror, to judge, to let me know that was enough. I had gone too far. They'd had it with me. They were tired of me. That's what I expected, because that's what I got from my background. That's what most of us get, because we were raised by human people, right? All of us. Even as a parent, I've done that countless ways to my children, regretfully. But as I show those parts of myself, and my therapist, this is important, because of the deep work that she's done in her lifetime, was able to meet me there. And the parts of myself that I thought were disgusting, that I had been taught to be disgusted by, we're just confused. We're just scared. This goes back to an idea I was grappling with whether or not to share this during this particular broadcast, but it's this idea of judgment. Enlightenment, awareness, spiritual awakening, the result of it all is non-judgment. And I mean radical non-judgment. When I hear about somebody doing something horrendous in the world to other people or to a person, when I think about the things that come across the news channel in the evening, it's of course very painful to hear. It's very dark stuff sometimes. There are great tragedies happening all over the world, in our communities. But my thinking, my lens is psychology. My lens is that person must be scared, must be hurt. Now, I'm still going to have my boundaries. Don't misunderstand that compassion doesn't require that we let down our boundaries, that we engage with people. In fact, what it requires often is distance, right? Setting a boundary allows me to have compassion. But if I engage with somebody abusive, and I because I had been taught this, that I should never cut somebody off, never say no, never set a boundary, I should be compassionate at all costs, even the cost of my own soul. If I do that, I'll end up with resentment and anger and judgment. But if I take good care of myself, I am constantly feeling compassion. So I watch what goes on in the world, and I see it for what it is. It's hurt, it's pain, it's fear. I often have said that Star Wars is my religion. And one of the reasons that I say that is because it's a fictional story, but it really does speak to this grappling with fear. If we are traumatized, if we're living in fear, if our souls, our psyches don't feel safe, we will try to control people, circumstances, even the chemicals in our body by self-medicating. So we have to learn to transcend fear. We have to learn to face our fear. We have to learn with the help of another to confront it, to accept what's in front of us, to accept what we didn't get from our childhood. What work is left over that we still have to do. You know, the saying that I often share that says, children, as they grow and mature, expose the immaturity of their parents. They expose the parts of us that we haven't dealt with yet. A struggling marriage, a type of person that you come into contact with. What I say, to people is, it's interesting that your ex is a narcissist. That's interesting. But what's really compelling, what really gets me going is, why did you marry a narcissist? And the person inevitably wants to tell me again how their ex is a narcissist. And my answer is, I believe you. More than you can imagine, I believe you. I believe you. But that's not the real compelling part of the story. The story is, how did you get in that situation? What's the work that you need to do? What's the thing that you need to face, to cope with, to deal, to integrate? So we have to go into the darkness. We have to face the things that scare us, the things that we've been taught to avoid. Shams Tabrizi, the spiritual teacher for Rumi, I love this quote because it's so encompassing. He said, the summary of the advice of all the prophets is this: find yourself a mirror. Again, that sounds very blunt. That doesn't sound poetic and compassionate. That sounds like it has cold, sharp edges to it. And so I like this addition. I like this piece that comes with a little bit of a softness to it. Something I just found this week. Somebody wrote, his name is Robert, looks like Brault, don't know who he is, but it came across one of my feeds. He wrote, basically, we are all looking for someone who knows who we are and will break it to us gently. Basically, we are all looking for something who knows who we are and will break it to us gently. That's the wonderful journey experience that I've had with my psychotherapist. And I remember when I was young, I had the delusion that I could handle anything. I would tell her in the early years over and over again, give it to me straight. You're pulling punches. I didn't know that her compassionate exploration with me was how she really felt. I couldn't imagine that somebody could have that kind of compassion and curiosity with me. I expected them, like the teachers and the big people from my past, most likely from your past, I expected them to give me a good lesson, to give me good confrontation, to tell me the way that it was. That's how I felt when I was younger. Now, 30 years later, I have an awareness of how sensitive I am. And now when I talk to my therapist, same client, well, not really the same client, but according to the United States government and my driver's license, I'm the same person. I say to her, be gentle with me. I'm insecure. I'm scared. It's hard for me to see myself. And see, I want to see, like you do, I want to see all the problems that I experience inside of my body as the fault of something happening outside of me. And I do that. We do that because of the overwhelming shame and guilt that we have. And remember, and I'll say this nearly in all of my podcasts, shame and guilt are not the medicine. They're not a reliable North Star, a compass for us. Shame and guilt will prevent you from seeing yourself, from knowing yourself. Shame and guilt will be the most powerful, substantial sentinels that stand in the way of greater peace, of greater awareness, of greater enlightenment, of greater healing for you. You will feel bad as you get healthier because you are confronting the dragon of should and shouldn't. You are confronting the teachings of your childhood, your background, the dominant culture. All of this, it's everywhere, right? This very famous poem that I quote often from Rumi that says the cure for the pain is in the pain. You have to go into it. You have to confront it. You have to accept it. You have to take responsibility. Not for what happened to you. You're not responsible for what happened to you. But what's left over in you is ultimately your responsibility. And if you don't take responsibility, if you fantasize and remain in denial that that everything's pretty good, then the people that are closest to you will suffer. They will suffer from your projections. They will suffer from carrying your shadow, the parts of you that you haven't dealt with, the self-hatred that you feel that drives those aspects of you into the shadow, into the darkness, into the unconscious. They will pay for those. So the bold task is you have to come to realize that you are the cause of your suffering. And again, even as I say that, I think about the kind of suffering that all of my clients have been through. The loss of a loved one, being abused as a child, being abused as an adult, having a learning disability, having a health issue. The list goes on and on. None of those are your responsibility. None of those are your fault. But what's left over is your responsibility. And if you don't deal with it, everybody around you will suffer. As Jamie Gill writes very simply and beautifully, what we do to protect ourselves hurts others. We have clients read The Knight in Rusty Armor either during or sometime related to their intensives when they come. It's a really easy read, quick read. It's about a knight who gets stuck inside of his armor, which is a symbol of the defenses that we put on, the costume that we put on in public, right? The persona that we become. We like the way that people look at us when we present ourselves that way. But like all defenses, eventually, the people close to him, he loses contact with his wife, he loses contact with his son, with even himself. And he goes looking for a cure, looking for a way out of the armor. And the interesting thing in this story, as he meets the blacksmith, he accidentally, inadvertently steps on the blacksmith's foot and hurts the blacksmith. He goes to the castle to find the king, his friend. And he steps on one of the king's servants. Eventually, he meets the king on his journey and hurts the king, steps on the king also. 3 times he steps on people. What that means symbolically is what we do to stay safe protects others. So the delusion, the mask that you identify with, the good person that you think you are, it is that very armor that hurts the people closest to you. And I'll explain that very simply right now. If you need to be good, right? Carl Jung said, I would rather be whole than good. If you want to be good, if you need to be good, and you deny the aspects of yourself that you have been taught that the culture teaches that are bad, like selfishness, greed, envy, jealousy, whatever it is, whatever the commandment is. If you deny those parts in yourselves, by the way, you'll see them very clearly in everybody else in the world. But when your loved ones, when your children, when the people that work for you, when your neighbors come to you and tell you that you've hurt them, because of your need to be good, you will vilify them. You will tell them how it's their fault, how they have a distorted lens, how they have some sick or twisted or unhealthy or unevolved way of seeing you. You will make them bad so you don't have to be bad. Because if you have to be good, then everybody else's anger and disappointment at you must be an indication of some fault of theirs. And I have done that much of my life. And until I went through a midlife experience, which I could not avoid, I discovered that I hurt everybody that I loved. Everybody that was close to me. Many people that weren't that close to me. Because I had to be good. Because I had been taught, like most of us, that that was the goal of life. To be a good person, a good citizen, a good brother, sister, friend, employer. Even in Al-Anon, they teach that trying to be good is the enemy of progress. We have to come face to face with what I deem your horrible, rotten self, our horrible, rotten self. We have to deal with it. You have to come to know what your particular mental illness is, your style, your preference, your defenses, your wounds. A lot of times I think about it this way. In psychotherapy, we come with the idea that the therapist is going to give us an out. I once wrote, the client may think, speaking to therapists, the client may think you have some way around reality from the pain of it all. But what you do have is a clear sense of what it feels like to hurt and the offer of your presence so they don't have to go through it alone. Attachment-based therapy is different. The therapist doesn't try to fix the client. They try to find the client. And when the client is seen, heard, and found, the client is able to move through pain, grief, and fear to the life that is waiting for them on the other side. And the result of this process is freedom and serenity. Marcus Aurelius said, very similar to Rumi's quote, what stands in the way becomes the way. And because the burdens that life gives to us, like abuse, like loss, are so heavy, we need others to walk beside us, to help us to carry what has been handed to us. But we have to go through it. And in Campbell makes a clear point when he talks about this heroic journey. At some point along this journey, the very last threshold has to be one in which you cross alone. But you'll be ready by then. And if you're not ready yet, go to an Al-Anon, go to AA, go to psychotherapy, go to Families Anonymous. Go to a place where other people have hurt first, but they've come back with the medicine. And you know what the medicine is? It's them. They're the medicine. You become the medicine for somebody else eventually. Your presence, your way of being, your way of seeing, what has developed in you through this painful, difficult, unimaginably scary process that you've gone through. The medicine that you bring back to the community at the end of the hero's journey is you. And you learn to sit with people in a way that nobody has ever sat with them before. And that changes them. That changes everything. Carl Jung wrote, by not being aware of having a shadow, a dark, repressed, unconscious part of us. By not being aware of having a shadow, you declare a part of your personality to be non-existent. Then it enters the kingdom of the non-existent, which swells up and takes on enormous proportions. If you get rid of qualities you don't like by denying them, you become more and more unaware of what you are. You declare yourself more and more non-existent, and your devils will grow fatter and fatter. The parts of ourselves that we disown because they present a threat to connection to the greater community, especially as children. Those parts don't just wither and die, they become monsters. Right? When you get told that the friend, the secret friend that you have, the imaginary friend you have, that's not acceptable and that it's not real, that imaginary friend doesn't disappear. It becomes a monster in the closet or under the bed. That's what that mythology is about. As Charles Bukowski said, don't fight your demons. Now remember, we were told that they were demons because we were told to be afraid of them. That's how the big people thought they could protect us. We understand that. We've done the same thing. Don't fight your demons. Your demons are here to teach you lessons. Sit down with your demons and have a drink and a chat and learn their names and talk about the burns on their fingers and the scratches on their ankles. Some of them are very nice. Others have said, I don't want my demons to be cast out because they will take with them the angels. There is great energy in our demons. Once we make friends with them and we realize that there was nothing to be afraid of in the first place, then they give us aspects of ourselves that were our original gifts. That's what happens in the cartoon Frozen. The demon was her power to freeze things. And because her power to freeze things caused such a fright, such a scare in the family because she almost accidentally killed her sister, She went away and hid. She hid her gifts. She hid herself. But later on in the story, which is in all heroes' journeys, the thing that caused us to feel so alone, to feel so different, to feel so alienated, is also connected to our gifts. And so when the village, when they needed saving, speaking of the movie Frozen again, they went and found her, and she saved the village. She saved the community. So that thing which made you different, that thing which made you odd, that thing that was the thing that made you made fun of by the other kids, that made your parents shriek and gasp in fear or disgust. Connected to that thing, that aspect, that characteristic is your gift. Go back and look for it. And until you do, you will keep coming over and over again to the same challenges, to the same relationships, to the same circumstances. And because you have gotten rid of your greatest superhero power, you won't know how to get through it. You won't be able to get around it until you reintegrate the parts of yourself that you have cast off, that you have denied, repressed. The greatest marriages, the greatest relationships are those where each partner is willing to bear the responsibility of carrying their own shadow, their own darkness. If we do not face the parts of ourselves that we have avoided, we will ask our partners to bear the weight of our projections. We will conclude that it is they who are causing our unhappiness. We will think our children, our spouse, our friends, our boss is the cause of our unhappiness. What a gift it is when a partner, a friend, accepts their responsibility, enters therapy, and takes on the arduous task of owning what it is theirs to own. We show our loved ones we love them by going to therapy and taking responsibility. Now, I've made mention of the hero's journey. If you don't know about it, I would encourage you to go to YouTube and watch the movie Finding Joe by Patrick Solomon. It's a great introduction to this. And I won't take the time to go through the whole hero's journey, but there is in the beginning of the hero's journey a call, an invitation to leave what is familiar, to leave the community, to leave the known, to really leave the ideas that have been baked into you, that have been indoctrinated into you. And then you come across something painful, some crisis. Your failing marriage or your struggling child is the medicine. Each stumble, each fear, those things you despise in others, your struggles, these are a sort of call to the heroic adventure. The poet Rumi explained, these pains are messages. Listen to them. Carl Jung explained, that which irritates us about another can teach us about ourselves. Listen to your pains. They're the call to this journey, this individuation. The call, in essence, to become who you are. Then, as the poet Wendell Berry writes, when we no longer know which way to go because there are no rules, when we no longer know which way to go, he says, we have begun our real journey. In stories, often the hero sets out without a path because the path is a representation of the way that somebody else has gone. You have to go into it where it's darkness. You have to go into it not knowing. You have to go without any guidance in a sense, not alone necessarily, but you have to go in where it's darkness because it's your path, only yours. My son-in-law and partner and coach at Finding You, Jordan June, explained that peace will never come to you if you're trying to be good. Because if you look deeply into yourself, you will see that there is so much more to you than the good. If we seek peace, we must learn to find it with the real, authentic self. If peace rests upon getting better or being good, it will never be found. The trick is to learn to love yourself as you are. Then you will find the peace and the goodness, and it will flow from you. Now, in my book, The Audacity to Be You, the subtitle, as I've already made mention, is called Learning to Love Your Horrible, Rotten Self. I want to point out it's not called Becoming Better so that you're more lovable, becoming good. improving yourself so that you are beyond reproach, beyond criticism. As Carl Rogers explained, nothing can be changed until it is accepted. That includes you and me. You have to come to terms with the fact that you're a codependent, that you're an addict, that you're depressed, that you're anxious, that you're obsessive compulsive, that you're neurotic. You have to keep that in front of you, right? You might be surprised, those of you that have no experience with this, but there are people that attend Alcoholics Anonymous meetings 40 years after they've had their drink, multiple times a week even, because they have discovered the wisdom that you have to keep it in front of you. You have to know yourself well enough. If I have a drink, I know how that goes for me. And if I don't keep coming back to remind myself, I will forget. You have to make friends with your own darkness and remain on speaking terms with your mental illness. And we all have some, right? Mental illness is not this binary of healthy people and unhealthy people. It's a continuum, and we are all on it. Khalil Gibran said, and God said, love your enemy, and I obeyed. I obeyed him and loved myself. We have to make peace with ourselves, radically accept ourselves. And you have to learn self-love, because if you don't learn self-love, you won't be able to see yourself. You'll be looking for the good. You'll deny the parts of yourself that are quote unquote bad. Carl Rogers said something similar. He said, perhaps I myself am the enemy that needs to be loved. My co-author of my upcoming book that'll be out soon, entitled Stay in the Room, one of my co-authors wrote, I found God in all the places I was told not to look. I think that that's in all of the myths, right? The prophet goes away. The hero goes away. They go away from the mainstream culture. They seek their own path. The Buddha left his home, left his wife, left his child, and went away. And we are told not to do that. We are told that that will be death, annihilation, rejection, that we won't make it back. But as the great teacher Alan Watts taught, when you find out that there was never anything on the dark side to be afraid of, nothing is left but love. That is my experience. Once I grappled with the dragon, and I still grapple with him all the time, but during a really critical, notable point in my life, once I grappled with him, on the other side of it was love. Because if I accepted myself, my horrible, rotten, broken, struggling, imperfect, messy, idiotic self, and I don't mean that in a self-deprecating, punishing, hateful way. I mean it in a loving, accepting way. Once I made peace with myself to some extent, I had love for everybody else. I don't see people. Charles Eisenstein explained that evil is a consequence, not a cause. Evil is a consequence, not a cause. And what he means is what we call evil is the result of unprocessed trauma, of severe attachment wounding, of alienation from the true self. But we have been taught over and over again that to be our true selves is to risk becoming evil, everything that is evil. And it's not true. If you feel safe, if you're nested in love, all you will want to do is love everybody else. Once you experience this kind of grace that often religious people talk of, even though I'm not talking about it in a traditional religious context, once you experience this grace, all you want to do is have everybody else experience it. Once Jean Valjean and Les Mis experienced incredible grace from the bishop, he spent the rest of his life giving it to others. And that is inevitable. That's what happens. The great prophets, the great mystics are those who have gone into the darkness and suffered greatly. And they come back with the medicine for the rest of us. And the medicine is this sensibility that I'm talking about tonight. The poet Rumi said, yesterday I was clever, so I wanted to change the world. Today I am unwise, so I want to change myself. Let me read that again. Yesterday I was clever, so I wanted to change the world. Today I am wise, so I am changing myself. And Aldous Huxley wrote, there's only one corner of the universe you can be certain of improving, and that is your own self. So you have to begin there, not outside, not on your child, not on your partner, not on your sister or brother, your friend, your employee, your employer, your next door neighbor. Start with yourself. Then helping and facilitating others to change comes afterwards, after you have worked on your own corner. And it can only be that way. Because until you grapple with yourself, until you do this work, your efforts to change people won't be this kind of love. They'll be from the same place that you were originally taught, the place of fear, judgment. When Jung explained that thinking is hard and that's why most people judge, this is what he's talking about. This stuff that I'm suggesting is heresy, right? It runs contrary to most of the things most of us were taught. I remember I was working with a family from the Middle East, and I kept finding myself apologizing for the fact that I was teaching things that went against their culture, right? I got taught that in graduate school about different cultures and being sensitive. But after my 10th time of apologizing, I finally said to them, you know what? I'm not going to apologize anymore for the fact that this is different from the culture you grew up in. My next door neighbor doesn't believe this stuff. Most of the therapists that I work with don't believe a lot of this stuff. They don't understand that the cure is in loving yourself, not hating yourself or hating parts of yourself. To learn to love yourself, to love that which you have been taught is unlovable. And when you do, it will blossom. Right? You can't force the rose to bloom, as Rumi said. It will bloom when it is kissed by the sun. These are metaphors for the same thing over and over and over again. I wanted to share this. Rumi taught the desire to know your own soul will end all other desires. This is what Buddhists mean when they say that suffering comes from wishing that things were other than what they were. It's not what happens to you that causes suffering, according to the Buddhists. It's wanting it to be something other than it is. Somebody recently asked me at an intensive, because I was using Star Wars as a motif, as a theme to talk and teach some principles. Somebody said, what is the Force? I explained the dark side really well. Like it's a fear-based attempt to try to control the universe so that nothing bad happens. That's the only way that Darth Vader and others knew how to protect themselves, is to control things. Because they had no base, they had no soil, they had no secure attachment. So somebody said, well, then what's the Force? And I explained the Force is being with the world in the way that it is. I had a colleague once that was talking to me about this idea. She was saying, I don't really relate to codependency because I don't think I have that. And I listened curiously. And after a few minutes, she said, do you think I have codependency? And I said, of course you do. It's a continuum and we're all on it. But you have plenty of it. And she asked for some examples, and I gently gave her some examples from our interactions. She says, you think other people know? And I said, they don't know. They probably sense it as anxiety, but they know something. And she kind of, in a painful but humorous way, said to me, she said, I don't want to be a codependent. And I said to her, you don't have that option today. That option is not available. The only two options that I know that are available is you either accept what you are and who you are, go back and do the work to unravel it, find a healing journey, and make that your project, your life's project. You either deal with it or you deny that you have it, and it continues to hurt you and others. But the option of you not being codependent, the option of you not having a shadow, the option of you not having traits of mental illness, that option doesn't exist. It's a fantasy. It's delusional. And clinging to it will cause you to inadvertently, unconsciously hurt the people around you. And what's more insidious, it will cause you to engage in patterns that reinforce the behaviors that you're complaining about, the behaviors that are hurting you by other people. You'll project the unowned parts of yourself out into the world. You'll see the mote in everybody else's eye, not the beam in your eye. You'll see the monsters as something out there, and you'll go to war with them. And you'll make almost no progress until you turn inward, until you realize that the only devils, the only monsters worth dealing with, worth considering, are the ones running around inside of your own head. And that even goes to your story. I love this little story of radical acceptance of you and your journey. The student said to the master, "Does rejecting my past mean I am also rejecting myself?" The student asked the master. "You cannot love who you are and reject and hate reject and hate the very experiences that shaped you," the master replied. You have to deal with what happened to you and how it impacted you and how it shaped you. You have to unlearn what you've been taught, which ultimately is enlightenment. To be with what is. Ram Dass says you go into a forest and you look at the trees, you don't judge them. Some are tall, some are short, some are skinny, some bend this way and that way. And you find it beautiful. And then you leave and then you judge people. Carl Rogers said, when I look at a sunset, I don't think, you need to soften that orange over there, add some pink to this. You just see it as beautiful, and you learn to look at life that way. That's what I mean when I quote the quote that says, all of the mystics agree on one thing, that all is well. They don't mean that there's no pain, that there's no hurt in the world. Of course, the world is full of it. They mean is that when you make peace with yourself, when you learn, when you develop this sense of self that comes from this kind of work that I'm talking about, you're not at odds with the world anymore. You're not hoping for a different or a better world. You have, in essence, created a different or a better world inside of you. So instead of take home tonight, I want to say what to expect on this journey. As you face yourself and accept responsibility and change your sensibility to the kinds of things that I'm talking about today. You can expect criticism from the people that you love, the people that are in your circle. Constructive feedback telling you that you're crazy. You can expect to lose some people in your circle, to lose old friends, even loved ones. But you can also expect for new friends and loved ones that you were in relationships. You can expect those to blossom, some of those. I think it's wise to expect to feel fear, shame, grief, and guilt. In essence, the stages of grief. You can expect at times to feel really regressed and young, incapable and small. But ultimately, what comes is peace, joy, freedom, connection, and greater compassion toward yourself and others. You can expect to be present in your life. This one wild, short life that happens in a blink. And you can expect to bring back the medicine for others. And that medicine is you. It is the new way of being that you have come to understand and embody on this journey. All right, folks. Thank you. I hope that was helpful. I hope that made sense. My two books, The Journey of the Heroic Parent and The Audacity to Be You, are available on Amazon and Audible. November 5th is our next Finding You workshop. We also have a Finding You workshop in November for couples. It's called Finding Connection. That is November 12th. If you want to attend a support group, if you are an alumni, October 15th is that next support group. All other inquiries, private intensives for couples and families, email us at info@findingyouprograms.com or go to our website. If you want a coach or a therapist who works in this model that I'm talking about tonight, based in this model, go to our website or email us at that email address. I'll be in the Bay Area On October 25th for 4 hours, I'll be hosting a workshop called Bringing Compassion to Parenting at the Palo Alto Preparatory School. Go to our website or email us to find out more. I'll be in New York all of next week at the Omega Institute in Rhinebeck, New York, the Hudson Valley. Just go to the Omega website at eomega.org, click on the workshops tab and the Audacity BU workshop. And of course, when I get back, I'll have a new broadcast for you, and I haven't decided what that is. That'll be October 21st, 2 weeks from last night. So I'm going to be off and at my Audacity BU workshop all next week. So Tuesday, October 21st, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, broadcast to be determined. I hope this was helpful. I hope it made sense. It was absolutely a joy thinking about this week. And remember that psychotherapy, the kind that we do, gets you to the place where these kind of things just make sense, where you're able to embrace them, to embody them. So don't worry about having to do anything, but just get yourself to therapy and just keep going. Get yourself to Al-Anon or Coda and just keep going. And eventually, a new aspect of you will begin to emerge. A new kind of courage, a new kind of sense that you will be okay. You'll begin to carry around what my therapist described as a copy, as a small version of the group that you attend or the therapist that you're seeing, and you'll feel okay, and you'll be able to do things that go against what you have been taught and against what you have been told to fear. All right, folks. I love talking to you, and I love this journey and sharing it with you. Thanks for the honor. For on behalf of the people that you love and the people that love you, thanks for showing up. Thanks for being willing to consider and accept responsibility for what is yours. And in doing that, you make the world a better place and you impact all the people around you positively. Have a great evening, and I'll talk to you in a couple of weeks. Take care. Bye-bye.